Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is obviously the new episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special. I am your solo host for now, Mr. BoomStick XL, as we await Fuzzy Belvedere to join me as he normally does on Mondays. Folks, we have an outstanding 75 plus minute show for you. We're going to be getting into, of course, the leak that happened over the weekend regarding the pricing of both the ROG Ally Xbox and, of course, the smaller model. We will get into that. Forza Horizon 5, and well, look who just showed up talking about racing, and well, he sped here. The tires on the rubber on the tires for Fuzzy Belvedere is still screeching and smoking. Fuzzy, what's going on, my brother? How you feeling?
Sorry about the mute. No, but I'm feeling great. Glad to be here with you. Yeah, it's a good time, especially seeing how well Forza's doing. But we'll definitely get into that. But yeah, we might have some pricing news, so or at least some coming real soon. So we'll get into that as well. But it's going to be a good show today.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. We have a lot. We have three topics we're gonna get into, and of course, again, folks, the first one is gonna be the opening salvo of the day. You got to take this with a massive grain of salt, and we'll get into what Paris Lily had to say on the socials. I did talk to someone behind the scenes. We'll get into that as well. Of course, they remain anonymous. And Windows Central did a story regarding the pricing. We're going to break down that article. We're also going to use a PureXbox.com article, basically breaking down the Forza news. And man, look, again, when you talk about money and Xbox, I actually don't care because none of that money is coming into my coffers. But I am happy for Xbox because apparently Phil Spencer and team going third party. Well, here's another perfect example of why they were right for doing so. And again, I'm Fuzzy and I we're old timers, and we never would have signed off on this if we were running the show. But again, such is life. But Fuzzy Belvedere, let's get into the breaking news. You sent it to me, and again, I do have an article here regarding the leaked information for the Xbox Ally and the Ally X. And well, folks, this is a story that I pulled here from Windows Central, written by the one, the only Jez Corden, one half of the Xbox 2 podcast with Rand Althor each and every week. Well, the title or the lead title for the article that Jez wrote says the Xbox Ally and Ally X prices may have leaked, and if true, it's not as bad as I thought. Well, I guess he's got bucks, but we'll get into it. It goes on to say Microsoft and Asus are gearing up to launch the Xbox Ally PC gaming handheld later this year, and the biggest question remains fixed on everyone's minds is the price. It goes on to ask the question, do we have our first answer? Well, a few weeks ago, we exclusively leaked that the Xbox Ally, codenamed Kenan, not Keenan, in development with Asus ROG. The Ally range is powered by a Z2 APU, including the first handheld that will support the Z2 Extreme on the high end, which sounds great. Now, the article goes on to say, Fuzzy Belvedere, there have been some rumors about the pricing ranging, and it's been, fluctuating depending on who you speak to, from either $800 to almost and potentially $1,000. Now, according to a new report from 3D Jugos via Instagram, may have given us our first glance. Apparently, this is leaked. These photos are leaked from Asus themselves. And honestly, according to Jez Corden, it's not as bad as he expected. And it has here, now mind you, folks, these are the European pricing. This is for Europe. This is the price. The Ally X at 899 pounds, which equates to a little over $1,000. The Ally, the lesser version, the white version, is apparently coming in at 599 pounds. Look, Fuzzy, these things were going to be expensive. I think that the white version coming in at the lesser price is almost, I mean, it very much seems similar to the Xbox Series X and S, right? You have the X that is over $500 when it came out after tax. It was, and then of course you had its lesser little brother at $299, which was a $200 difference. Obviously, the prices have gone up due to tariffs and such, but for me personally, I'm buying this. I don't care what it costs. Look, I'm going to be honest with you folks. I'm not made of money. As you know, I'm a retired guy. I'm buying this. I'm not getting one from Xbox to review. The channel is way too small. Have I inquired? Of course I have, but they have not answered back. I wonder why. So there you go. It's unlikely that I'm going to get hands-on with it here at home to review it. The channel is too small. Look, I wouldn't give it to myself. I'm not even going to lie. But I am buying it nonetheless. And I know, again, $1,000 is a lot of money. It's probably coming out, if I had to take a blind stab at it, Fuzzy, I think it arrives right before the holiday. It makes sense, right? It makes too much sense. Gamescom is happening in a couple of weeks. I won't say more than a couple of weeks, but towards the end of August, we're halfway through July, so about 6 weeks, give or take. I have a feeling that it's going to be there in a big way. I really do. And of course, Tokyo Game Show, Xbox has just been confirmed to be there. I have a strong suspicion that it's also going to be there. But interestingly enough, I'm wondering if a big Japanese game, whether it be a known game or a new game, could show up and shown off with the handheld in Japan for TGS 25, because that's what I would do. Obviously, that audience, they buy consoles, of course they do, but not like they did in the past. They're PC gaming, they're handheld gaming, they're less is more, and it would be a good way to maybe show off Final Fantasy VII Remake, give a release date, boom. We had heard, again, this is just a rumor, folks, that there is going to be something potentially new shown off at TGS 25. Again, that's a rumor, folks. But if you can take a new announcement and it's a bit of a banger and something we didn't see coming, like, I don't know, the Lost Odyssey remake or Lost Odyssey 2 or something so crazy that you just blows your mind, and then you pair it with the handheld, that's how you do business. That's how you get people excited about your handheld. Fuzzy, look, $1,000 is a lot of money in 2025. Hell, I would even dare say $1,000 would be a lot of money 5 years ago. But this is one of those handhelds that I personally have to have because it's exactly what I've always wanted. It is going to look, act like an Xbox, and I'm going to be able to take my gaming on the go. It's going to have some really beefy power. Again, I could go with the lesser one, but when I'm going to go, I go all the way. Let's get your thoughts on the leaks. And again, I'll get into, on the back half of this conversation. I can't specifically say who I talked to, but I do want to bring up Paris Lily's tweet and, get his public take on it. But what are your thoughts on again, folks, with a grain of salt leak that I'm going to say the Series X, that the Ally X could be $1,000.
I think a lot of us that were aware of the tech that's inside of it were kind of expecting that type of pricing, but all hope isn't lost just yet. Like it kind of depends on something that might become unpaused later this month, but I'm still holding out hope that this thing is $900 or like $899, but it is quite possible that it sees the $999 price. Like if you look at the previous year equivalent, which would be a Z1 Extreme, which is the regular ROG Ally X. Those range in price on Asus's site for $799 all the way up to $999 on some of their partner distributors. And I think Best Buy is $899 at the current moment for that. Provided that the unpausing doesn't affect this, or maybe things go, get paused another 90 days, we could see it in that same price range as what the one was from last year. But if not, $999 out the door, maybe slightly more. Like if you do the direct conversion, it winds up being like $1,050. Isn't so bad for the tech that's inside. Yeah, it's a lot of money, but for those that might be a little gun shy based on the price, the lesser powerful one is still a handy kit in comparison to a current model Steam Deck, or even the regular Z1 non-extreme model that's currently floating out as far as the ROG Allies out there. This is more online with what would be a ROG Ally, 2 or ROG Ally X2 kind of deal at this current moment. But with Xbox being the backer behind it, I would say the prices are reasonable, although I would have loved for these to be like 600 and 800, but realistically 700 and 900 is probably what these will debut at. Sure, there'll be some places that may even try to charge a little bit more to kind of cover some extra, margin or whatnot. But I think these price, or at least the big boy one being priced closer to the 1,000 was expected. I'm glad it's not, beyond the $1,000 mark or like 1,200 or so, like some people may have thought it could be. But then again, tariffs could be a factor, but with this being considered kind of a PC, it should qualify for similar exclusions that PC hardware fell under before as well. So we'll see if tariffs become any type of factor, but if it's showing at 899 euros, and I think the other one was like 599 euros, be prepared to save somewhere between 900 to 1,000 if you want the X, or like 700 plus if you want the smaller model, which I'm going to repeat myself again. If you're new to PC gaming, console is the only way you've played, I would say the lesser model is a worthwhile investment because you can hook that to a monitor, a keyboard and mouse, and have yourself a basically a 1080 PC that will be able to play most games. It's just that it won't play it in the highest fidelity. It'll be playing it similar to like a Series S in some cases, like for things like Cyberpunk, but you'll still be able to enjoy a lot of the Steam games that, until the next generation console comes out, that'll be about the easiest way to access it and for the least amount of money to have a decent handheld hardware wise. So we'll see.
A couple of things. I want you to, if you don't mind, clarify the power of this thing and how actually good it is. Because again, there's some people in the chat that are like, "Well, $1,000, I'm out." Listen, folks, I hear you. I don't have $1,000 under the couch cushions like Microsoft, but I'll figure a way to get it done without actually stealing. We'll work it out one way or another. But I just to clarify, it wasn't pounds, it's euros. And according to the actual article, the conversion is, like you said, would be 899 euros. Mm-hmm. That would equate to $1,050 US. Yeah. Now, interestingly enough, the Asus ROG Ally X typically sports a $799 price tag, but more specifically, like Best Buy, because of the tariffs, raised it $100. So right now it's $899.99, which is $900, folks, and that's without tax. Yeah. In your for your thought process on this, Fuzzy, mm-hmm. the ROG Ally X versus this new device, how comparable is one to the other? And is the new device better and potentially, because right now at Best Buy, it's $899, mm-hmm. could we see an additional $100? Or maybe because of the parts potentially being cheaper, it lowers it?
I think what winds up happening is when this is released, the ROG Ally X drops a bit. It may
Okay.
drop $50. It may drop $150. So if you're looking at a current Asus ROG Ally X, I think you'll see a price drop similar to a lot of these handhelds. When the newer chipset comes out, it slots into the previous, tier price, and then the other one becomes more affordable. Much like when the ROG Ally X came out, the original ROG Allies dropped a good bit. Like people were able to pick up some for as low as 350 all the way up to like 550, depending on the drive space on it and stuff like that. So looking at the Z2 Extreme versus the Z1 Extreme, it's hard to compare it from a console standpoint. Yes, technically it's a new generation. It would be like jumping from Xbox One to Series X in comparison. But the key thing that you're going to see is that the processing speed, having that 24 gigs, which yes, you can get the 24 gigs also on the Z1 Extreme, but with it being a faster memory set, this is going to be a little bit more future proof in comparison to picking up that ROG Ally X that's out there now. So let's say, for example, you pick up the ROG Ally X. After about 5 years, don't expect to play things like whatever the current day Witcher or the current day Cyberpunk would be without it being toned down to looking like graphics like a Switch 1 level type of downgrade at that point. This will give you at least another year or so with the Xbox Ally X before you get to that point where you're really going to start to notice it not keeping up at 30 frames on some of the higher end, more graphically intense type of games. But keep in mind, for those that are new to these handhelds, there are hubs or docks out there where you can hook an external video card to help power them through. So if this was to be like your entry into the PC space, having this handheld is a good console-like experience. But if you're hesitant to spend $1,500 to $3,000 on a good gaming rig that you build from the ground up kind of deal, this is a nice stopgap where you could do the external card in the meantime with a hub, which those docks range anywhere from $40 to $140, especially the ones that will allow like an external video card. But with that being said, that will extend the life of that handheld, and you'll have something that'll be able to keep up with most rigs that are priced at around to build somewhere between $1,500 to $2,000. So there is growth with this, or the growth possibility that you don't see with consoles. But from a standpoint, this being more of a generation, not a big generational leap, but more of an efficiency, better battery life, faster clock speed, just better processing at that point as far as being able to play games. You're probably looking at like it's hard to say at this moment, but I would say some of the games expect a slight uptick in the frames per second, maybe being able to turn everything to ultra as opposed to high on something that comes out a year or two from now, and be able to enjoy this game in handheld mode at 1080, or hook it to a dock and then play it on a monitor or your TV. Although I know some of the techies out there will push back and say hooking it to a TV, you'll see the frame drops. They'll be more noticeable on the one in white, which will be the regular Xbox Ally, but it wouldn't be like you're trying to go for like 90 frames or it'll be able to do 60 frames and do some dips similar to current gen consoles. But the X should be pretty rock steady on most stuff. But once you start getting into whatever Cyberpunk 2 or Witcher 4 might be, that's when I think it might be where you'll do 60 frames and then notice a drop here and there kind of deal. But that's, those are games that are probably 4 years, 5 years out. So this should have a pretty good shelf life for pretty much every game that you're aware of in production now, and being able to play it, especially like things like, for example, GTA 6, when it comes to PC, unless they do something a little bit different than they've done before, where they do a play anywhere kind of deal, which it's a possibility, but like unlikely at this point. But if they were to do something like that, yeah, you'd be able to enjoy it. But I don't hold your breath on GTA 6 being a play anywhere title off the rip. Like I think they want you, especially Take-Two, to double dip like they've had people do with
Of course, I mean,
GTA
it's
5.
Rockstar. What do you think? I mean, it's 2K. What do you think?
True. But yeah, the power wise, these are better than what the current Steam Deck is, what the Lenovo Legion Go S.
Oh, okay.
Pretty much look for, like, for comparison's sake, what will be coming out as the Steam Deck 2, the Legion Go 2, or the MSI Claw 2. This is like them getting that jump start in comparison. You'll
Okay.
start to
Wow.
see those other devices probably come out early next year. With this being, released at holiday, so they'll get a couple of month jump on what these other ones will do. But the key thing, Microsoft doing the software on the back end, it's to improve on what Windows is running, or the way Windows runs on the current ROG allies, so you get similar performance upticks or uplifts like what the Steam Deck does. Because the Steam software, the Steam OS, has been pretty good working behind the scenes as far as making sure you get, optimal battery life, optimal, screen or frames per second, with maybe some minor sacrifices on visuals, or going for a lock 30, but having all the bells and whistles turned up. This is a device that's definitely ahead of all of those devices that you can buy today. And like I said, the Steam Deck 2, Legion Go 2, MSI Claw 2, those would be the next comparable devices, which, maybe we see next February or so.
That's really interesting that you how you broke it down. So I definitely appreciate the knowledge, because again, you're a tech guy. I am not. They put $1,000 price tag on this thing. Hypothetically, I'm going to buy it. And again, you saying that it's going to be one of the better ones out the gates, ahead of all of these other ones like the Lenovo and the Claw and everything else. That's something to I guess they can put on the packaging, right? Because again, if it's going to be a tip of spear, of course we're going to want it. Of course, and again, someone actually had asked in the chat. I answered them, but you answered it anyway. These things are dockable.
Mm-hmm.
So there are like Fuzzy was alluding to, there are multiple docks that you can buy for this thing. And again, you can get, I've seen them as much as $150.
Yeah.
And that allows you to add a card to it. I'm not doing all that, folks, because it's not that serious. But if you are a tech person and you don't want to buy a rig, and you just want this thing to play games, you can hook this up to a nice monitor or your TV and just go. And it is going to be tip of spear with its tech that's in there. How long it stays that? Well, we'll have to find out. But for its initial release, it's going to be a bloody powerful machine. And the fact that it's going to have a Xbox button on it, that is freaking awesome. And again, it's Xbox's first OEM project that they're working on. We know that we could see something similar to this with their consoles next year or in 2027. But this is a great jumping off point. Again, nobody is going to rah a $1,000 device. We don't want it at $1,000. There are some ways that both companies can shave a couple of bucks off. Obviously, if Microsoft doesn't charge for the OS, that's going to shave up a couple of bucks. There's ways to do it. Are they going to do it? I would imagine we're going to see soon enough. And if again, this is just me, once again, taking a blind stab at a hypothetical. If you're going to get an official launch date and, of course, price, I think the biggest event that we know that's coming up in a couple of weeks is Gamescom. That's probably where they're going to do it. And the reason why I say that isn't because I've talked to anybody behind the scenes. It's because Xbox was there in a really, really big way. And from what we're hearing, they're going to be back in an even bigger way this year. As a matter of fact, one of the driving forces for people wanting to go is they're going to be celebrating the 10th anniversary of FanFest there at Gamescom. It's a pretty big deal. So if you're doing that kind of a celebration, what better place to show the world, hey, this new handheld, boom. Obviously they got murdered in Europe when it came to PlayStation versus Xbox. Well, they can get people to buy this thing. People could potentially get into Game Pass. People can buy their games, and it's a win-win for everybody. But again, great opening salvo. Now, I did mention the Paris tweet, so I do want to kind of just give Paris a shout out. He couldn't be with us here today. He is working, ladies and gentlemen. But he did say this: saw the leak, and in my opinion, it's doubtful that Asus ROG Ally X will be $1,000 USD. The European price is almost never one-to-one conversion to USD, and Windows Central states as much in their article, and he linked the article that was written by, once again, Jez Corden. That article will, of course, be attached to today's show. So if you want to read it for yourself, once this goes up on video on demand, you can go and check it out. But Fuzzy, I do want to catch up on super chats, but we got to get into this Forza Horizon talk. And of course, I couldn't ask for a better podcast partner than Mr. Racer himself, because folks, it has been said in the article that Forza Horizon 5 has actually sold more than Astrobot, Game of the Universe, which, by the way, is a freaking amazing game. I don't care what anyone says. It wasn't my game of the year, but it's a damn good game if you like platformers, and I'm a big O nerd, and I do. But let me catch up on super chats. There's been quite a few of them, and then we're going to get into the Forza story, because Forza versus Gran Turismo, launch day 1-to-1. Oh my God. I really don't think Gran Turismo 8 is going to stand a chance against potentially Forza Horizon 6. We'll get to that. And that's a lot of hypothetical conversation, but we're going to have fun with it. Web Dave drops a very generous $2 super chat. He had an amazing podcast, and if you're not already subscribed to Web Dave, what the heck are you doing? You're doing it wrong, folks. Web Dave, shout out to you, brother. Looking fantastic every time I see him. He drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, "Boom, Fuzzy, TTS, I'd buy that for $1,000. I see what you did there with the RoboCop pun. Our generous friend of the program, Ultraman, brother, it's great to see you here as always, and a big thank you for the very generous $5 super chat. He goes on to say simply, "Hi, fellas," or "Hey, fellas." Well, salute to you, kind sir. Thank you for the generosity. I appreciate you being here. Oscar Wheat in the chat drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, "Don't mind paying $1,000, but what the next Xbox price is going to be?" That's that's a great question, Oscar. If the handheld's $1,000, what would be the next console if it's this magical box that is an open source platform? You're playing your Steam games, you're playing your good old games, you're playing your Epic Games Store. Oh, and by the way, you're playing all of your Xbox library. That's very interesting. Handheld versus the home console. We're going to find out, and hopefully we find out next year. DJ Birdo DOS in the chat, Loose Noob, as it's in parentheses. He drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, "For the love of Joe, hit the like button." Brother, that's very kind of you. Thank you for the generosity, and thank you for reminding me to remind the people, please, for the love of Joe, hit the like button, ladies and gentlemen, if you're enjoying the conversation. But let's go over there. We got to get into this story. Now, granted, this comes the way of PureXbox.com. It was written by Ben Carey, posted on Friday. Now, mind you, this is going back a while. This is from an article from June, but but it's just the jumping off conversation for what is going to be the second half of the show, and that is Gran Turismo versus Forza. We're going to get into it. But look, again, this is an older article. We do know that, again, based on the article in front of me, Ben goes on to say that on PlayStation 5, Forza Horizon 5 has already made over $100 million for Xbox. Look, here's the thing, folks. Again, when it comes to the money, I don't give an F. I don't care how much money Xbox is making. I don't care how much money Microsoft is making, because they're not giving me a dime. I'm a customer like you. We're all consumers, right? We're here to get the best for our money. We're doing that with Xbox Game Pass. But it's very interesting when you look at how Forza Horizon 5 Fuzzy has dominated on PlayStation. Now, again, I don't have the actual to-date numbers of how many players across Xbox, PC, and PS5 they are. I think someone had made mention, I think in last week's show, that they were over 46 million players. Look, this thing is going to get to 50 million players at some point. Now, is that mean that it has 50 million copies sold? No, that's not what that means. It means that potentially 50 million players have played this game, basically started the game. Whether they continue playing it or not, I couldn't tell you. But Fuzzy, as interesting as it is on how well that it's selling, that it currently has outsold even the greatest game of the year, of the generation, of the universe in Astrobot, which again, folks, I know a lot of people like to clown on that game. That game is dope. I don't care what anyone says. I loved every second of it. Now, granted, I haven't been back. I know there's a bunch of trophies that I have to unlock and a bunch of bots that they've added to it. I'll get to it eventually, but I really love that game. You all know that. And the fact that you have a game that released in 2021 that is coming up on potentially 4 years old this year is selling like gangbusters on the opposition's platform is a really big deal. So look, the one thing I think it's safe to assume and potentially say publicly is that as great as sim racers are, it's a niche market. And I'm not being facetious. Look, we talked about this I would even say a couple of months ago, Fuzzy, where Gran Turismo 7 on the PS5 has sold extremely well. To the point of, I think it's like 14 million, somewhere around there. It's a lot of copies. That's fantastic for a game that's considered quote unquote niche. But interestingly enough, what I want to talk about is we just witnessed the dismantling of Turn 10 Studios, right? Now, you played it, I played it. I'm not a sim guy. I'm an arcade racer guy. Apparently, arcade racers are a much easier brand to sell. I mean, I think it's just common knowledge that that's in fact the case.
Yeah.
But we don't know we know that Turn 10, the studio itself, hasn't been closed. But we have heard rumors that it is going to be a support studio for Playground. Does that mean Playground Games is taking over Motorsport and they're going to do their own way? Or is Motorsport going to be a hub? Is Motorsport going to be an additional DLC? You know, who knows what they're going to do moving into Forza Horizon 6. But interestingly enough, and this is where the conversation gets, speculative, if you will. We don't know what's happening with Forza Horizon 6. We know that it's coming next year. We know at least that. We don't know the location. We don't know how many cars. We know Playground Games is hard at work at it. It's going to be a big racer. We don't know if it's day and date on PS5 and Xbox and PC. I mean, listen, at this point, I would not be surprised at all. But where I think Sony's own Gran Turismo runs into potential problem, this is where I want to get your thoughts and your theories on this. If Forza Horizon 6 comes out and it's as good, and I would imagine going to be even better than Forza Horizon 5, trying to release their own first-party game that's a sim-only racer is going to be trouble for Gran Turismo. That is my thoughts and my personal theories. I want to hear yours, brother.
It's going to be, it'll be tough to say, and I'll give a couple of reasons why. The big thing, and to my understanding, it's somewhere north of 12 million. I don't know if it's reached the 14 million, but it's somewhere in that ballpark. And just from my personal experience, from a lot of people that have both Xbox and PlayStation, or those that are just PlayStation that are on my friends list, a lot of them bought the game and played less than 2 hours. Like 99% of them. Like there's only like 3 of us, and I think Forza Erwin, who everybody has seen on social media, he's about the only other one that's put in,
I've seen him,
more
yes.
than a couple hundred hours and stuff.
By the way, I got the updated stats right in front of me, brother. So according to, again, this is the AI overview, so take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Gran Turismo, as of today's date, ladies and gentlemen, has sold an estimated 14.4 million copies worldwide since its release.
Yeah, that's awesome. And looking at it being a 25th anniversary for this most recent one, I think that had that and the fact that it was kind of in that launch window like a year later or so. I think that definitely helped that number, especially with its legacy. A lot of people that have played some of the earlier Gran Turismos probably bought it, have the box on the shelf, and may not have even opened it, or at least looking at it from an activity standpoint, it kind of feels that way. So if you were to launch something like a Forza Horizon 6 on there at the same time it's available on Xbox and PC, I think you could see a much larger than 2 million in a month sales frenzy over there. Yep. Because the biggest thing is they haven't really had their own arcade racer since Evolution Studios was closed for Drive Club, which I've had my issues with Drive Club. Was it a good arcade racer? Yes. It did some things really well, and it did, at least in my opinion, other things not so well, especially comparing that directly to, at the time, Forza Horizon 2 with, some people prefer the look of the dynamic weather in Drive Club, but it wasn't really dynamic. It was either it started raining and then it stops, or it doesn't rain at the beginning of the race and then it rains towards the end. That's not dynamic. Dynamic would mean it's constantly variable throughout the race, which you had even back then in Forza Horizon 2. You could go through any area and it might start raining. You could go through a race there, it could start raining, or you could do that race a dozen times and it not rain at all. It was what I would consider true dynamic weather. But having something like Forza Horizon 6 come to PlayStation day and date, it's available in Game Pass, it's available on Xbox, it's available on PC, and as well as PlayStation. Maybe it's on Switch too. I could see it getting very close, if not, surpassing the numbers of what, Gran Turismo did. Is that something that, Sony's going to take lying down? Probably not. But the biggest drawback I always say when it comes to Polyphony Digital is that while they are very detail oriented, they are very slow with releasing updates or additional content. They're perfectionists through and through, but the cost of perfection is you get 4 cars a month, and sometimes you don't get any cars a month. You might get a car or a racetrack once every 2 years, and that's just not something that you can really compare to what Playground Games is doing, in the sense where you start off with, in some cases, triple the amount of cars from start, and then you wind up having 30 cars for like the first 5 months each month, and then it trickles down to about 12 or so for a while, and then after it's like 4 or 5 years old, then it's like at end of life kind of thing. Then you only get like maybe 4 cars a month, or 2 cars and 4 returning cars from previous Forza Horizons or something along those lines. So it could definitely see that type of sales revenue on the PlayStation platform. I wouldn't be surprised, like, if, not that Microsoft is going to release the official numbers, but out of those 50 or nearly 50 million players, I would say it's at least 20 million in sales. And that might not even include the 2 million that bought it on PlayStation. I'm pretty sure there's quite a few people that do play it via Game Pass or game sharing, but there's a lot of people that bought this game. And, a Forza Horizon 6 will do numbers. I think by the time it's all said and done, this 4-year-old game will see over 5 million sales on PlayStation. And I think the only reason why it's only 5 million is because a lot of people are probably waiting to see if Forza Horizon 6 is coming out, because the thought was maybe it comes out this year, but it looks like it'll probably be a next year type of deal. I mean, unless they surprise us towards the tail end of the year. But yeah, it looks like Forza Horizon 6 will probably be a next year thing. With that being said, that'll probably slow the sales of Forza Horizon 5 on the PS5 platform. And then from there, depending on what Xbox does, if it's everywhere day one, yeah, I definitely see that next one doing quadruple the numbers on PlayStation than what it's doing currently. And we'll probably see a game that reaches 50 million players within the first year, kind of thing. So yeah, it's interesting times. I could definitely see, like what you're saying, as far as it surpassing what Gran Turismo does, but there's going to be Gran Turismo loyalists that are still going to buy Gran Turismo, and that they might pick up, Forza Horizon, or they'll likely pick up Forza Horizon just for the, even if it's just to simulate, like, oh, I'm driving these newer cars, which that's another Achilles heel of Gran Turismo. They're starting to get some newer cars now, but a lot of them are being SUVs, which is silly to me, because based on what Kaz has said before, those aren't race cars. So why would you put an SUV? But Forza Horizon's been doing it for a while, and they actually put sporty SUVs like a Grand Cherokee SRT8, or the latest Land Rover, which are like supercharged setups. The Porsche Cayenne, the what do you call them, the Lamborghini and stuff like that. Like, those are the SUVs you want to have if you're going to put it in a racing game, not the CRV-H or whatever, that the thing that looks like not the Honda Civic, but it's basically their Civic equivalent of a crossover stuff. So yeah, they're I don't know. They're kind of, I think, losing touch with the fans, versus Forza Horizon. That's exactly what the fans have been wanting. A good arcade racer that even EA isn't delivering on these days.
What's interesting? So I'm all about that evidence-based conversation. I love numbers, ladies and gentlemen. And I pulled a report. Now, mind you, this is an older article I'm using for context. It was written by William D'Angelo at VG Charts with a Z. It was posted on April 15th, tax time of 2025. And interestingly enough, this is where I'm wondering how close to 50 million players it is now, because obviously we're in July, and this was written in April 15th of 2025. It says Forza Horizon 5 tops 45 million players ahead of its PlayStation 5 launch. And obviously, I've been looking for the numbers. The closest thing that I was able to find was 2.2 million. I would imagine that they've sold more than that. If anybody in the chat wants to get a shout out, let me know if you were able to find how many copies of Forza Horizon 5 actually sold on the PlayStation 5. I honestly, I don't know. Shout out to Eris_EMS. Thank you so much for always being here and supporting the channel as you do. We'll get to your channel member chat in a minute. Look, Gran Turismo is a series that, for me, has fallen off a great deal. My favorite, and this is, we're going back some years. My favorite Gran Turismo is 3. That's how long it's been since I enjoyed Gran Turismo. I actually imported that from Japan, and with my brother, we each got a copy. I very much enjoyed it. I have not enjoyed it since. I did buy GT7 for again, because I have a PlayStation. I don't mind buying games, but it wasn't for me because I'm not a sim racer guy. Like, I played Forza Motorsport, but not to the extent of what I played in Horizon, right? I bought GT7 for my nephew. He saw the movie. He's like, "Oh, Theo, can you buy the game?" Sure. Here you go, kid. And now he plays it. He plays it every now and again. He does like crashing in Forza, though. So that's, he's 16. What do you expect? But Anthony Chipmunk says Gran Turismo 2 is your favorite. Yeah, it's going all the way back.
Yeah.
3 is my favorite. I put a lot of time into 3. Very much enjoyed my time with it. Have not enjoyed it. I don't know. See, again, where this story goes, we're going to have to find out, because obviously we're going to have to see when GT8 is eventually going to be released. Now, here's the problem with Polyphony. Polyphony, like Fuzzy was saying, my God, they are the epitome of dragging the heel. As much as they know how to do detailed cars and do detailed tracks, and their games look amazing, I don't know. What do you think about that one versus the other, Fuzzy? I got to just take this real quick.
Yeah, but when it comes to GT7 and let's say Forza Motorsport, the key things that I notice are going to be some of the handling characteristics that are different. For me, I like the in-track feel that you get from Forza Motorsport because it feels like the tires are, I wouldn't say glued to the track, but they do have more of that feedback, whether you're playing with a controller or with a wheel, that it feels like you've gotten heat in the tires more consistently. So you're, I wouldn't say each turn is predictable, but it is a lot more controllable. There are times where you could be on your third or fifth lap without even doing excessive tire wear in Gran Turismo, and you get a twitch loose feel, which, yeah, they do have like little things like marbles in some of the corners which is like the rubber chunking on the track. But it feels like sometimes when you expect the turn to go as smoothly as the previous lap, you got the tires heated up. Sometimes the rear end gets from under you, and it feels like it's a little less realistic, even on whether you're driving front wheel drive or rear wheel drive. My preference being rear wheel drive cars, but it doesn't feel as what's the best? It doesn't give you as much feedback, or at least for me. And it's the same thing even when you turn up the sensitivity or the haptics on like the controller. If you're using controller, when it comes to the feedback from the gas or brake in comparison to, you know, just doing the medium setting on like an Elite controller when playing motorsport. So it's there's that aspect. Handling, I prefer, you know, motorsport. When it comes to in-car racing, I prefer motorsport. So if I'm setting up with my wheel, the in-car is kind of more of the preferred. Otherwise, I usually do like the follow behind type of deal. But the other aspect, a lot of people will nitpick some of the car detail. Now, depending on which cars you're looking at, if you're looking at Ferraris and you're looking at the mesh screen over the engine bay and you're looking at all the bolts that hold that mesh screen, okay, I'll give the nod sometimes to Gran Turismo in that. And depending on if you're in Europe or if you're in the US, you'll have a disagreement on the taillight accuracy. Because Playground is in the UK, sometimes it's not as accurate as what we expect in the US for the taillights per se. But that varies from car brand to car brand. I guess it depends on which car they get in. And a lot of times they use the same source that scan the cars for them, and then they go back in and update or tweak and so forth. And it seems like most people want to give the nod to Gran Turismo for car detail, but I don't know. The interiors for Gran Turismo almost never seem like they're what you would expect. They're always the base of the base model, whether it's the cheapo stereo or the cheapo navigation system or something like that. It feels like they're going for more so that you're going to have 100% accuracy, but it's on the base model car on the inside. And then it might be the, you know, top dog or the Halo car for that lineup on the outside, which always felt weird to me. But there are some inaccuracies on turn 10 side. Some of them, I guess it depends on the source of the car, because there have been times where I guess they got a ZL1 in there and the badging was off. And it may have been because the owner's car had the badging off or badging removed or something to that effect. But I don't know. The big thing I like more about GT7 for me personally is that I can use cars that I own in my garage to do either AI races or their Sophie AI races now, which was a upgrade or update that they did not too long ago. Their Sophie AI versus their regular AI, it's a little more aggressive. But it does feel like there is a bit of a rubber banding, although it's less noticeable, especially if you're using cars that are all in the same PP or performance point range. When it comes to motorsport, even though they've overhauled their AI is better at start or the first turn than it used to be compared to 7. But sometimes their AI takes weird lines in comparison to the rest of the AI, or weird lines in comparison to what you're doing if they're trying to pass you. More times than not, I'm usually passing them, and it's like they give me extra room until we get to the pinnacle of the turn where I should be clear, but they're heading straight into my bumper as opposed to taking the turn the way they would normally, or a normal driver would. So each one of them has their pros and cons, but graphically, it's a toss up. I would say a lot of times from the car standpoint or even following behind, I prefer motorsport, but there are times where, because I can have painted cars that have the sponsorships from the cars that are in my garage, so I can recreate, an IMSA race or a Trans Am race or MX5 Cup race or something like that, and have the official paint schemes that other artists have painted. That's where I give the nod to Gran Turismo. But to each their own. You can make each one of them as arcadey as you want by turning up all the nannies to help you drive, or you can turn them all off and make it as close to sim as possible. Although they are still, at least in my opinion, simcade-ish if you compare it to the likes of iRacing or even Assetto Corsa in some regards, especially on PC, at least with some of the mods and things. But they're both great games. But unfortunately, because of replayability, I play a lot more GT7 than I do Motorsport.
Okay,
the one feature I wanted them to do was allow me to do race lists from the cars in my garage that I already have painted, tuned, and everything. The minute they do that, which who knows if that will happen now, things would flip or reverse for me at that point.
Well, listen, there are a lot of unanswered variables here. We know at least for a fact that Forza Horizon 6 is coming next year, right? Which is going to be great. I would imagine we're not going to know anything until the June showcase. Makes perfect sense. I think that we're going to see, again, this is complete spitballs here, folks. Beginning of the year, I would imagine we're going to get some sort of a direct, right? What that dev direct is, in my humble opinion, is Fable. Fable was supposed to come out this year. It's been held off. Playground Games is working on that, and Forza Horizon 6. I think that the Gears, Halo, and Forza are going to be obviously a big part of it's the Trinity, folks. It's the 25th anniversary, 20th anniversary of Gears, the 25th anniversary of Halo and Master Chief in the box. It's going to be a big party time. I don't know what happens when they actually show 6. I can say this with full authority, and again, this is a complete spitball, but you don't expect anything from Gran Turismo 8 next year. Maybe not even the next year. Hell, that may not even come out until the launch of the PS6. That they take a long time to make their games. The real big question is, what do they do with motorsport as a franchise, as an IP? Does it go the way of the dodo? Do we never get it again? Because, obviously Gran Turismo sold pretty well, 14.4 million copies, and it's a niche's racing genre. I know Fuzzy here loves it, but Fuzzy is a professional driver, for crying out loud. So of course he's going to like it. I really hope that it doesn't. Again, there are people in this community that absolutely love motorsport. Maybe they didn't love this one as much as the one before it, but I'm sure they don't want to be left out in the cold. I got to imagine that they're not just going to shelve it, man. I don't think so. Maybe Playground gets involved, and maybe there's some sort of a dual thing where the remaining team of Turn 10 and Playground work together to put out the motorsport after Forza Horizon 6, and some of the team just stays on for FH6 for updates and tweaking and DLC. It's going to be very interesting to see where these franchises go, but I think it's going to be even more interesting to see if Forza Horizon 6 winds up being a day-and-date release on PlayStation, how much it would sell based on what's going on currently with Forza Horizon 5. Again, folks, there's a lot of unanswered variables, but I'm here for it. Let me just catch up on. We got a channel member chat, and let's catch up on some super chats. And we're gonna get into some Ben Studios information, folks. Interestingly enough, I didn't see 111 articles written by anybody in the press about the layoffs and the cancellations at Ben Studios. And folks, I got news for you. You know how I feel about layoffs. You know how I feel about studio closures, game cancellations. It's nay for me. When those things happen, that means people lose their jobs. I'm not about that life. I'm about playing video games, and I get very saddened when people lose their jobs. And folks, you know, we got some information on Ben Studios that recently happened. One of the developers came out. I guess he was pretty upset with some of the things that have been going on with the studio. We're going to get into that in a second. But we have Knight of Cypher, who's been a channel member for 3 months. Salute to you, kind sir. Thank you so much for the support. He says, I hope Forza Horizon 6 is day and date on the PlayStation 5. They all just bought Forza Horizon 5. Yeah, I mean, listen, again, let's be clear. I don't give a flying shit about how much money Microsoft and Xbox makes. I'm not about that life, folks. I'm a consumer. I'm here for me. But them making money over there, what does that mean for me as a consumer? That means that further investment into Xbox Game Pass, and that means more games are going to be coming to the service. I mean, that's how I equate it. Ultron Quake drops an additional very generous $5 super chat. Says, everyone go and watch Superman. Xbox needs to get together with James Gunn and get the license for DC games. Batman made by Arcane Leon. Anybody? Oh, I like that, man. I mean, they're already working on Blade, so why not Batman? Yeah, I'm actually going with my nephew and his dad over next weekend to see Superman. I didn't want to get it was too crowded this weekend. It didn't really do that great in the box office, folks. Which I am stunned. 217 million worldwide for its opening weekend. Not that great. And you know why I say that is because I very much enjoyed it. I know a lot of people give me hate for this. I love Mackie as Captain America because, of course, I'm a big Marvel Studios stan. And, you know, well, Falcon became Captain America. If you read the books, you read the books. I really enjoyed Captain America Brave New World. I know a lot of people didn't. Don't throw the virtual tomatoes, folks. I hear you. But I liked it. I've watched it 3 times. And I'm not sorry that I did. Interestingly enough, that movie's considered a failure, quote unquote. And it made 191 million in its opening weekend. Superman, made 217 million. Not much more. But we will certainly see when the numbers come out. Everyone I've talked to loves it. They think that it, again, I've never really watched it. I don't know who in the chat has watched Ultimate Justice League, right? I think that's an anime. It's one of DC's animations. They said it was like that. Listen, it's James Gunn. He has a different sensibility. It's kind of jokey. That's just, you know, I've heard it compared to Guardians of the Galaxy Superman. I'm okay with that. I'm very much I can't wait to see it over the weekend. So I'll let you know, Ultron Quake, what my thoughts are. And yes, that's a great idea. But again, Xbox has Blade. You know, I mean, Blade is going to be dope from what I understand. I in Arcane, I trust. Eris_EMS, who's been a channel member for nearly 2 years. That's very kind of you, brother. Thank you so much for the generosity, as you always do. He says, I'll be surprised if they hit 1 million units sold at that insane price. He's talking about the handheld. People balked at the Switch 2 price. Man, I mean, it's different crowds. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I mean, $1,000 asking out, entrance fee. They're going to get the diehards. They really are. How many of? I put it this way: there is no casual owner, a casual gamer, I should say, going to walk into their local Best Buy, GameStop, wherever, and be like, Here's $1,000. I don't know nothing about PC handhelds, but hell, I'm all in. It ain't gonna happen like that. We will certainly see. But we have another super chat here from Sloth in the chat. Drops a very generous $10 super chat. He goes on to say, I just got Car X Street on Xbox. I don't know why EA fumbled this one, but it is it is the Need for Speed Underground 3 we never got. Great game, just drive and race. I have to look into that. I did not know about Car X. I know, I'm sure Fuzzy knows what that is. You know what's interesting? You know, there was, of course, you know, we wouldn't spend too much time on this, but EA obviously, apparently, there is a report that they have shelved the Need for Speed series. Look, I don't know about you, fine folks. As much as I enjoy Need for Speed, my favorite Need for Speed of literally all time is Most Wanted, an Xbox 360 launch title. They were supposedly doing a remake of that. I don't know what happened. So maybe that still comes out, maybe it doesn't. That's my favorite Need for Speed, and it was from 100 years ago. We will certainly see what happens. We also have Wooger Man in the chat. Hey, what's going on, brother? I got a chance to hang out with him over the June showcase. Great to see you, brother, and thank you so much for becoming a channel member, brother. That is very kind of you. Looking forward to next year's event. Hopefully, you guys get more help, and I'll be one of them helping along. That was what an amazing fan fest, and it was community made for the people by the people. Shout out to Woogerman and so many others, Ben Kenobi. I mean, it's just, there were so many people that were a part of that, and like, by all accounts, it should not have worked, and it did. And it was an incredible hands-on fan fest event. It just was so good. So, Fuzzy Belvedere, let's get into the story that's less likely to be reported by many of the big gaming media sites because, well, they don't report bad PlayStation news. I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound like an a-hole, but let's call a spade here. This article was written on the 14th of July. Oh, my goodness. It is a Today article, gamingbolt.com. I will also include this into the show notes, written by Ravi Sheena. Again, that was posted today. This is under the news and rumors umbrella for Gaming Bolt. It goes on to say Ben Studios has reportedly canceled multiple games and unannounced projects. The Days Gone developer has made headlines earlier this year after Sony canceled its open world live service multiplayer title. The article goes on to say, Fuzzy Belvedere, spare a thought for Siphon Filter and Days Gone developer Ben Studios after the former launched to positive reviews, but not overly whelming great critical reactions. It would work on an open world live service multiplayer title that was canceled earlier this year. However, that may not be the only project that has been shelved at Ben Studios. As discovered by Timur222, which we talk in DMs on a regular basis, the LinkedIn profile of game designer Jacob Theth indicates multiple, unquote, multiple canceled unannounced projects. He was responsible for creating open world events and missions, prototyping events, puzzles, and systems, while collaborating with animators for in-game cinematics and much more. Given that he's been working at the studio since 2019, which is when Days Gone launched, you have to wonder how many projects have been left by the wayside. While 30% of Ben Studio staff has allegedly faced layoffs, the unannounced part gives some hope that that they're currently working on something new. Well, I mean, there's a lot to get into here. Now, granted, there is some speculation on my part. We do see Ben Studios has a pretty storied history, And Days Gone, which is a game that I honestly believe in my heart of hearts that Sony should port to Xbox. If they were to port that to Xbox, I don't know if it's going to sell 5 million copies. I'll tell you what, one thing, I'll freaking buy it. Days Gone, I want to say about 30 or 40 hours into it. It was really good. My only complaint is that in all those hours that I played, I had the same AK-47 for all those 40 hours, and it was ridiculous. But it was really good. And those hordes were scary. Like if there were 2 particular instances where I died and I got cornered. I was like, holy shit, I freaked out because the horde came out. It was one in the lumber area that was there you go. You know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And there was another one that was a junkyard, and I got cornered, and it was all she wrote. It's fine. I'm still here. I'm not a zombie, but I died in the game, and it wasn't fun. It was scary as F. Let me just say that. I would buy that game. I would honestly buy Days Gone on Xbox. And again, after what happened, yeah, I know a lot of people. There are some purists that don't believe there are no single player games coming to Xbox because they know what they're talking about, folks. Sony likes money, ladies and gentlemen. So this would be a good one. Who could port it? Well, Nixxes, because they just ported. I believe Nixxes was responsible for porting it to PC. The PC version released. It was like their Game of the Year edition. It could easily be ported to Xbox. I don't think it would cost a lot to port it, to be honest with you. But we know that leadership there really came out and lambasted Sony for not allowing them to do Days Gone 2, because they had, folks, there was a story, there was work done on it, they were all prepared, and I have a feeling that Days Gone 2 would have been Ben Studios' Uncharted 2 moment. Yeah. Because Uncharted 1, it's a good game, but it's only good. Uncharted 2, ladies and gentlemen, God tier good. Still my favorite PlayStation 3 game. I like to play it. I haven't played it in a couple of years. But I like to just start over. That opening scene is brilliant. Just brilliant on that train in the snow, right? Mm-hmm. I really think that Ben Studios could have had that moment with Days Gone 2. That's just my opinion. But now hearing this, that there's been multiple cancellations. First of all, their open world game that was a gas game was one of those canceled games, right? That's one of 10. There are still 2 that, okay, so 10 games canceled. This was one of them, right? We know that Marathon's been, shelved until 2026. They're working on it. They're doing some stuff. Fair Games
also shelved.
Jade Raymond's no longer part of the studio. I have a feeling that's going to be, again, it's just speculation, folks. It could be the next big announcement. But you know what? I got to be honest with you. The question is, what happens next to Ben Studios? Because they canceled their game. They've been working on it for a couple of years. Are they a support studio? Are they working on? They haven't been greenlit for Days Gone 2, right? That's done, right? That's not happening. Yeah. This is a great studio for PlayStation. I don't know what happens to the studio, folks. Again, they did have a bunch of layoffs, and now, of course, thanks to the information that came the way of one of their own designers, they shelved a bunch of stuff. They canceled even more than just the open world game. The question is, what do you do with this studio now? Who do they back up? Who, if you make them a support studio, who do they back up? Do they back up the Uncharted studio? Do they back up, something else that Sony's working on that we haven't heard about? Or, this would be the worst case scenario. They close that studio. A lot of people thought that this studio was in jeopardy after the open world gas game cancellation, and now we're hearing this. Yeah. Buzzy, what happens next to this studio, man?
It's hard to say, because I was one of those that thought, once they announced that gas game that they were working on was canceled, I was expecting the announcement of their closure shortly after. Not that I wanted that to happen in any way, shape, or form, but it seemed like that was like their Hail Mary or their last chance. They didn't get Days Gone 2 approved. They were a support studio. Some of the higher ups, complained about it, and then one of them got let go or he left or something. This studio is kind of battered at this point in the sense that they're probably going to be a support studio for Naughty Dog again and getting Intergalactic across the finish line. Either that or maybe they're helping Insomniac, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're helping with Intergalactic at this point to kind of get that one wrapped up and keep them in that support studio hell, I guess, for some time. It just feels like it's missed opportunity because not Helldivers. A Days Gone 2, I think, would have been well received this generation. The first one didn't meet the critically acclaimed moniker that they were hoping for, but game story and gameplay itself, especially once it came to PC and the PS5, being able to get through those hordes a lot smoother without having frame drops and things, definitely made it a much more enjoyable, playable experience. So I honestly don't know. I kind of thought that they were working on other things other than a gas game. It didn't seem like it made sense to go from Days Gone to a gas game. So another single, player story driven narrative type of game would have made more sense. Maybe they do have them working on something. It's kind of unfortunate it's not a good Days Gone 2, but once again, I think if this game doesn't do well, I'm hoping it's like the Ghost of Tsushima in comparison to Infamous, even though Infamous did well for Sucker Punch, but Ghost of Tsushima was like a breakout for them in all honesty. Hopefully whatever they're working on next winds up being that, because I don't want to see that studio close. The game that they made with Days Gone was a good game.
It was a great game.
It's just that the critics didn't agree on that. Maybe they were tired of zombie games at that point because there were a lot of zombie games or zombie related things happening at that point. Maybe they didn't care for the character, which I get it, but they made a solid character. It's just that sometimes the motorcycle wasn't the greatest, dropping through the map and stuff. But once they got those bugs fixed, I mean, it was a good game, at least in my opinion. And I know a lot of other people that enjoyed that game. So I don't know. I hope they get an opportunity. I mean, it would be a Hail Mary for them to get an opportunity to get a Days Gone 2 going. But whatever it is, especially if it's a single player story driven narrative that they're working on next, which I think makes more sense than them attempting a gas game. Like if they were going to do a gas game, it would make more sense to bring that horde tension, like when you're being chased by that, to like a multiplayer space. Not make it a Left 4 Dead kind of scenario, but make it a more intense type of thing where maybe you can do 4-player co-op against the horde and set traps and stuff along those lines and just try and barely escape, or maybe you sabotage other people so they get trapped and you get out. Like that, to me, if you're going to do a gas game, that would make more sense for that studio, especially being able to use some of those existing assets and stuff. But I don't know. It can't be good after so much stuff is canceled. Like it's like when you get shot down after, asking so many times, hey, put us in, coach, let's do this, let's do that. And you're getting shot down, or you get something and then it gets taken away or shuttered. That can't be good for morale. That can't be good for the outlook for the studio, because they're probably already looking for that other hatchet to fall where, it's either be the support studio or there's a door. And they're already witnessing, probably the dissolving or absorption of Bungie, which they might not be directly related in any way, but it's a Sony studio that's probably going to see even more cuts in these coming weeks and things. So I don't know. This is the type of stuff that I wish more of these journalists were focused on, as opposed to the Game Pass being unsustainable, because after all those game cancellations, those gas game cancellations, there has to be a boatload of money that was basically thrown in a circular bin and washed away kind of deal. Like you have these studios that you're paying salaries. You have these studios that were working on projects and having either overtime or maybe contractors assist on stuff, or using some licensing stuff, and now you have no game to show for it to recoup any of that expense. Sure, you can write it off to some extent, but when you're having a year where you closed a couple of your studios, you had a game that lasted only 8 days and didn't really see any recoup of revenue from that, and you had 2 other potential revenue generating games being live service, and they're postponed to who knows when, next year or indefinitely. It can't be good. And this is one of those teams right now that I wouldn't be surprised waking up to a headline like, oh, Ben Studios is no more. Not, like I said, not that I want that to happen, but it just feels like that's what Sony's next move might be if something doesn't get figured out here soon. Stop focusing on the mismanagement at Xbox, focus on the mismanagement at PlayStation for at least once, so we get down to the nitty gritty of the story. Where's Jason Schreier with the info on that? He should have an inside guy or talk to somebody there about what the heck is going on there. There is more to the story, I believe.
Yeah, what's interesting, and again, folks, I'm not a developer, right? I'm not a middle manager. I don't work for any of these corporations. If you have this team, which by the way, I'm at their LinkedIn page right now. As of today, it says they have between 51 and 200 employees for Ben Studios. And the minute you go to their LinkedIn page, it does have the post from a month ago where it says today we said goodbye to some incredibly talented teammates as we transition to our next project. We're deeply thankful for their collaborations or contributions, and as they have shaped who we are, and their impact will always be a part of our story. If it were me, right, and you wanted to use this team, again, I don't know anything about developing games, folks, but I would put this team on getting a port done for Xbox. It's money. You're going to make money. Now, are they working on? I mean, the story here would be if they were allowed to work on Days Gone 2. I don't think that's the case. I think that's for me is like fanboy dreaming. But I think that if you have this team and their last game was canceled, and they're currently rumored to be a support studio, have this team work on the port. Port Days Gone over to Xbox, same way you just ported Helldivers 2. It's going to make money, folks. People like myself are going to go out and buy this. How many? I don't know. But Days Gone's a pretty good freaking game. And can you correct me if I'm wrong? What engine did they use for Days Gone? Do we know specifically? Was it the Decima?
I think it was I don't know if it was Decima. I think it was an in-house engine that they were working on. But much like because even Ghost of Tsushima, it's not Decima, it's like another in-house engine, but not Unreal. So it was a good engine. It's just that the PS4 couldn't handle what they stuffed into that game as smoothly. The PS5 definitely can handle that many sprites and whatnot on screen.
And the Series X and S could probably handle it with no problem. So again, I'm not a developer, but again, if PlayStation wants to make money, Days Gone on Xbox makes a lot of sense. And if Ben is not doing something rather than close the studio, and again, this is all conjecture, right? We don't know if this is going to happen, but he wants to see it happen. But with more information that they have more projects that have been canceled and shelved, that can't be good for the team, right? We don't know if the team that if you read their letter of to the community about what's going on as we transition to our next game, what if that next game was one of these games that were reportedly shelved? Then what does the studio do? Right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens to Bend. Hopefully it's not going to be another studio closure. It's just, again, Sony finds themselves in a bit of a pickle because of how much money they lost with some of the other games that came out, like Concord, that failed. Concord failed, a couple of games, 10 out of the 12 announced gas games canceled. They got to figure it out at some point, right? Intergalactic, not next year. Next year, the rumor is Venom. The year after that, Wolverine. The year after that, potentially Spider-Man 3. So at least we know that there is a bunch of Marvel stuff coming, but we don't know anything else after that. It's Sony is going to have to make some moves, and I think that if Helldivers 2, and I think it's going to do gangbuster on Xbox. I really think it's going to sell really well. I mean, I bought it the second that it was available. I have a strong suspicion that if the Hiroki Totokis of Sony see that, they're going to be like, we have to start porting stuff immediately. And it's probably going to be a lot of the stuff that they've ported already to PC because it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, we'll see. But, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us here today. We got to thank Woogerman once again. He drops, ladies and gentlemen, an additional very generous $10 super chat. He goes on to say, thought I had joined before, Boom, so I just joined now. Well, that's very kind of you, brother. Thank you so much for the support. He says, I love the channel and the content. Games are priority. Well, I guess I meant to say, if games are priority, Sony should port Gran Turismo to Xbox next. Xbox should focus on Horizon. Could you imagine if they ported Gran Turismo? There would listen. I don't want to say it because it was suggesting a bad thing, but you're gonna have to watch your favorite PlayStation gamer. Watch them with a keen eye, ladies and gentlemen, because there's going to be emergency podcasts happening. That happens for sure. But hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, you enjoyed today's almost 90-minute show. If you did, hit the like button on the way out. If you're not already subscribed, please consider subscribing to the channel. Mrs. Boom and I are, when I say 17K, we are a leap and bound away from 17K. We haven't even gotten to 16.1 yet, but we're getting there. Again, it's the summer. People are just, the subs aren't coming in. But if you're not sub, folks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Mrs. Boom and I would be greatly appreciative of it. Big thank you to all of the super chats, channel member chats, and gifted subs that continue to come in. Mrs. Boom and I, again, are grateful. By the end of this week, we will lock in the date for our Christmas in July event, where we're going to be doing 10 giveaways, 2 of which are going to be grand prizes, and 8 are going to be regular prizes. They're going to be physical prizes, so we're going to be mailing those out, which, of course, it costs a couple of bucks, but we're going to mail out a bunch of coins. Again, the goal is to get each winner 3 of the coins that are designed by Ben Kenobi. I'm working with him right now to get a bunch of Doom coins that he has extra, and those will be a part of the prize. And of course, there will be a gift card in there, a physical gift card for Xbox. The amount for the 8 winners is going to be $25. We're trying to figure out what the grand prize is. Probably going to be $50 because, again, it's the summer. We're not made of money, folks. It's all coming out of our pockets. So it's probably going to be $50 per grand prize winner, and maybe a little extra in there for them to make it a grand prize. But we'll keep that a secret until those are shipped out. And we couldn't do any of those things without you and your generosity. So, Mrs. Boom and I, thank you so much for that. What's it over here? Let's sell the brand, brother. Obviously, your channel is the best place for anything and everything in the racing genre. But of course, you're trying to push your wife's channel, which of course is horror-based. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are a fan of horror, you're going to want to check out Fright Night with Ferocious Fee, Friday evenings, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Talk about it, brother. Where can they subscribe to both of your YouTube channels, and more importantly, find you guys on social media?
Oh, as always, thank you for having me on. This was awesome. Love doing this on Mondays. Breaking news and all. Always enjoy talking about this industry and interacting with everybody in the chat. Thank you so much for coming out and showing support. Like Boom said, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. We greatly appreciate the support. For those that want to hear my rambles and rants on anything gaming related, just do a search on social media for Fuzzy Belvedere. I put the links for my YouTube channel as well as my wife's YouTube channel in the chat. Fright Night with Ferocious Fee is every Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My wife told me the movie, and I forgot what the name of the movie is that we're supposed to review this Friday. But we will be watching I Know What You Did Last Summer this Wednesday. That'll be next Friday's movie of topic. And there's also going to be the premiere in Jersey over at Jay and what's his name? Jason Smith.
Silent Bob?
Yeah, from Jay and Silent Bob. His movie theater is going to show Swine and Dime, which is a movie my wife was like one of the producers that contributed to the GoFundMe. So if you're in that area, check out Swine and Dine. Check us out this Friday. It's a ton of laughs as far as when we get sidetracked talking about either the movie of topic or stuff completely unrelated to it. But in any event, check us out Friday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Link is in the chat. And as always, avoid social media to some extent. Play some more games. The backlog is definitely stacking up. You got Tony Hawk out there just hitting into Game Pass, and there's a few more games coming later on this month. Xbox is killing it this year. There's no doubt about it. And regardless of what the gaming media wants to say, whether it's sustainable or not, just enjoy the games. let them talk to the brick walls or argue it out on if it's sustainable, and then correct themselves a day or so later. Meanwhile, we can have fun playing the games. But as always, everybody take care and see you guys Friday right here.
And real quick, shameless plug, not for me, for the small game. There's a game that I'm playing that you reminded me, I didn't even download Tony Hawk. I bought it. I wanted I bought the I didn't buy the game. I got the deluxe, upgrade, whatever it was, like $13, whatever it was.
Yeah.
There's a game, folks. If you are a fan of Vampire Survivors, this game that I am playing right now is called Greed Land. Greed Land. One word. It's $10.39 right now on Xbox. And it is basically Vampire Survivors meets Helldivers 1. It is so, my God, ladies and gentlemen, I have gameplay. I have to put it together. It's so freaking good. Will be your next addiction. I'm telling you, folks, go search it out on Xbox right now. It's available on PC and on PS5. I bought an Xbox, obviously. There are 100 achievements. I think I have 60 of the 100 achievements already. My God, it is so good. It's made by a small team. I don't know how small the team is. This game is absolute dynamite. Greed Land, $10.39. I'm telling you, it's going to be the best $10 you spend this year. But of course, I think the king. Okay, so Stage on X asking about the game that's like Kingdoms of Amalur. Yeah, I got what the heck's the name of the game? Oh my God. I said it last week. I thought it was a new game to Game Pass, and people were like, oh no, it came out in January. I'm like, okay, I didn't even know that. I'll Stage on X. I'll get, if you listen tomorrow, I'll get the name of it. Something Strands. I don't know. It's something Strands. It's like Kingdoms of Amalur, except it's a newer game. I very much enjoyed it, but I did know. I guess to show you how many games come out in Game Pass. I didn't even know it came out in freaking January. Oh my God. Yeah, don't follow me for the news, folks. There you go. But Eternal Strands. Thank you, Rick RL. So Stage on X. It's called Eternal Strands. It's on Game Pass. It's freaking dope, dude. Like, it is really, really good. It gives me that Kingdom of Amalur's type of vibe. I very much enjoyed it. Thank you, Drake Williams. Super appreciate that. But ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the rest of your day. Try and stay cool. It's not as hot as it was or it has been here in New York, but I can't wait for the summer to get the F out of Dodge. But thank you so much for all the support through, your views, your shares, your likes, your subs. And of course, for Fuzzy Belvedere and myself, we're going to, of course, close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. They would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special.